Hi, it is so great to see you. I just have to tell you, I found the most amazing product. It's called Rain. It's seed nutrition. And did you know that seeds have 20 to 30x the power of fruits and vegetables, the potency? One little packet of Rain like this gives you 8 to 10 servings of greens. I had so much inflammation, so much pain, so much brain fog, and more. And I started on this and I got energy. My body quit hurting and my brain is working again. Wow. And what's even better is that now I'm making money doing it. And you can too. You can live your dream just like me. So, how did that feel? That is what's called push energy. We usually associate it with used car salesmen and those lovely telemarketers that call us right at dinner time. And some MLM folks like me when I started with Rain. I admit it. You see, I was taught or I learned to push hard as a woman in the Silicon Valley, especially since I was usually the only woman in the room for most of my career. I had to push to be heard. But before that, I was in sales for about the first decade of my life and career, selling big, badass iron. And there, the push was expected. Everybody did it. The companies all did it. The competitors all did it. So to win, I got really good at it. So good at it that when I started consulting, one of my colleagues told me lovingly, but when I walked into a room, it felt like a tidal wave and people took a step back, which, by the way, at that point in time, I was proud of it. Live and learn, right? So anyway, here I am, and Randy calls me about Rain, and I come on board, and being the eager beaver that I am, I sent out over 300 invites and got next to nowhere. And then Randy said to me, I think maybe you're pushing versus pulling energy right between the eyes. I mean, I know about push and pull. I teach it to my mind mastery clients. I've taught it to sales and marketing teams as well as executive teams for decades now. I went back to the habit I had learned for 30 years, to what I thought was sales, and away I went. So let's talk a little bit about why our minds don't respond well to push, okay? Because I learned that the hard way. Pushing activates our mind's defense systems, and that puts you into a threat mode, or what we've all learned is fight, flight, or freeze, right? It doesn't matter if it's a physical push or an energetic push. We sense it because it's unconscious. So, yes, it's the same mechanism that makes you want to run if you see three big guys running down the dark alley at you. When someone pushes something at you, you retreat. Now, here's something I just learned that I thought was really interesting. I found some research that shows that our minds respond more negatively to push when it's about what we should think versus what we should do. So ponder that for a minute, because what that means is when you're talking with people about Rain and sharing with them, offering them to have a chance for their own epiphany, which we're going to get into, you need to be pulling, not pushing, because if you push, they're more likely to shut down. Okay. So that means it's time to talk about pull. Now, pull activates your mind's reward systems. It's a big hit of dopamine, like Christmas for kids. So, what's pull? Well, lovely Anne taught us a bit about pull a couple of weeks ago. Remember this question? If you could, what would you change in your world right now? That is a great pull question. And here's the thing, questions are the most powerful form of pull. They trigger a dopamine hit because their questions open people's minds and make them think you feel interested. They show that you're curious. And that also triggers the curiosity in the person you're talking to because they're curious about what you're thinking and why you asked. Curiosity is another path to an open mind, and questions create curiosity. Statements, on the other hand, aka push, Narrow our minds into this teeny tiny sliver of focus. And the more you narrow it, the narrower it gets. Yes. So now think about your conversations with candidates and potential customers. Which would you prefer? Mind open or mind closed? It's pretty obvious, right? So let's take a look now let's look at and feel and talk about some of the different examples of pushing and pulling. First, let's talk about product conversations. Let's say you just met someone and they're asking you about the Rain products. You have choices, push or pull. So push would be, about all the low quality food we have right now. And, these seeds are 20 to 30x the potency of the fresh fruit or vegetables that they create. You can't eat enough to get this kind of nutrition because you can't find it. This is powerful, pure, organic nutrition. And what it does for our bodies, I have research from labs and you can see that. Okay, so that's push. Or you can pull. I'm curious. You asked me about the Rain products. May I ask a little bit more? Because I'm wondering, do you have something that you're not happy with about your health or nutrition and you'd like to address that, or are you just interested in general so I can give you the right information? Now, which do you think works? I'm not going to answer that. I'm going to let you guys decide. So now let's do a recruiting conversation, and I'm going to show you a really pushy recruiting conversation, all right? So here we go. This opportunity will change your life. You got to realize you can make money like you've never dreamed of without working hard at all. You can get rid of some of your gigs, but I can't sell. Don't worry, we have all the tools and you'll be great. You didn't hear me. I don't want to sell. Yes, you do. And you just don't know it. And I said the same thing. I didn't want to sell. That's pushy. It's beyond pushy, right? Now, let me show you pull. So, tell me about the life you dream about. What's your favorite picture of your best life? Can you paint it for me? I want to know more. See, now you're on a trusted path to a heartfelt conversation with opportunities to ask more questions that offer more insights from them. And the more insights you get, the more opportunities you have to ask questions that pull, right? Here's the bottom line. Every time you push into another person's energy or mental space, you threaten them. And believe me, Silicon Valley rebel, I was a master, all right? Every time, and by the way, we're talking about unconscious threats, okay? So the same thing works for everybody, for your friends, anyone. They either build a wall, right? They build a wall and ignore you, or they run away, either physically or mentally, or both. All right. Now, every time you ask a question, show you care about them, you open their mind. Their mind starts to connect with you energetically, and you gain trust. Trust is one of the biggest superpowers you can have when transforming prospects into customers and candidates into associates. So, to bring it full circle, for someone to trust you, they have to have an open mind about you. They have to feel safe with you, which means you use pull energy, not push. So, now let's talk about a few simple things you can do that shifts and opens minds and begins to build trust. Okay. So, first, vulnerability. Vulnerability before guidance or any sort of statements. All these facts and figures and statements and research and all this crap that people all put out there, most people don't want it. They want your stories. They want your vulnerability because vulnerability opens others' minds to you. When you share a story of your own pain, your failure, the time you were lost, the stupid shit you do, other people's minds reach out and connect in a form of trust. It starts to build trust and connection. Once you have that trust, any guidance you give them beyond that, well, you might want to try core because, you say your gut isn't great. I don't want to push you. Any guidance you offer is received and heard. When you push, it's not heard, they shut down. So from that position, you can then offer caring guidance, right? You get yourself in a position of trust by opening the kimono, so to speak, showing your vulnerability and telling your stories and just being a human being like you're talking to your best friend. And from that, you can offer caring guidance. Notice I said caring guidance. You don't then run in and push facts on them and start buying suggestions, right? So that's one. Vulnerability first, tell stories. Second is questions create connections. And I know I've told you this again and again, but so many of us have been taught to make statements in conversations. Are you kidding? That's all I was ever told. As a woman, you don't ask a question because it shows that you're stupid or you don't know the answer. That's so wrong. Opens the mind, makes the mind want to learn, lean in to listen and participate with you. When you ask questions that show you care about them, they begin to trust you. It also suggests to their mind that you are safe. Now, that is a double step up from threat mode because there's fight, flight, or flight, flee, fight, or fight, right? There's neutral, and then there's trust. So, guess what? When you take that double step up by simply asking questions after being vulnerable, you just got to a very powerful place to be able to have a conversation. Now, here's the third thing I'm going to tell you about. And this one I used a lot when I was doing marketing for tech companies. Here's a strange thing. You know, all those lists we come up with. So we'll have like 10 things we're going to say that we'll put, in the right order, or we list lists of value and benefits or whatever, and we put them on websites and all of that. They push against our minds. Now, if you're in a safe conversation, your mind takes in the full power of maybe the first three things of those lists, right? After that, after three, your mind begins to average the value of that list you're rattling off. So it senses push the more you go. So if you start rattling off a list of reasons to reign, your listener, one, averages that value and feels pushed after a max of three statements. And if you're building websites, don't list 20 things, list three. Break it up into different sections, but list three. Anything over three, and you dilute your value. And if you're doing it in a conversation, you create a threat and you shut them down. All right. It is a form of push. Okay. So instead, here's the trick. As you are asking your questions and learning more about them, kind of run through your mind about that list and pick the top three things that you want to share that are relevant to them and their story. And then use a fact with a question to paint their way to their epiphany. Now, let me show you what that means. How do you do that? Well, you follow a fact with a question, but here's some examples. Let's talk about a product fact. So, seeds have 20 to 30x the potency of fruits and veggies. And just one pack of a couple of different our products will give your kids everything they need for the day, nutrition-wise, from fruits and vegetables. Now imagine, here comes the question. Imagine knowing you and your kids are getting that kind of powerful nutrition every day without having to think about it, not having to worry about, did your kids eat lunch? Did they get any fruit? Have they eaten any vegetables? You know. See what I did? I used the fact, but then I opened out of it with a question to show them their epiphany, lead them to their nirvana of an experience, right? Now let's talk about candidates, and I'm going to take this one a little farther, right? You can make money with rain and get to run your own business. So think about this. Just think what it'd be like to have extra money to pay the bills, to have the time for your family and yourself. What would you do if you could live that life of freedom? Can you imagine it? What does it look like? What do you feel like? What do you see? I'd love to know. Here's the trick. If you can get them to talk about their sensory experience of their perfect time, you make an even stronger connection, okay? Because that connects to the unconscious mind and it's got a lot of power, okay? So now I know that that's a lot to think about, what I just gave you. Okay. So I'm going to give you 3 simple shifts to think about and begin to practice this week. Okay. So, number 1, instead of making a statement and telling them, always ask a question that matters to them. Make sure it's about them, and it'll matter to you too because you're getting more and more information and connecting deeper and deeper. Now, instead of planning your responses while they are talking, shut up, stop, and listen. Focus on them, not what you want to say next. We all have been trained to do this, right? We're all active talkers instead of active listeners. Active listening is not just a term, it's a way of life and a way of communicating that creates trusted relationships. So slow down and listen, and then ask the question from what they said, not what you have planned on your list. Okay? Then there's one other thing. Use your heart, not your head. When we speak from our hearts, others recognize it and they lean in. When we tell stories about ourselves instead of pushing facts and opportunities, people connect more deeply, see themselves in our experience. Okay? So, 1, instead of making a statement this week, always ask questions. Active listening, and then ask questions that are relevant and become a fascinated listener about them. Okay? And thirdly, use your heart, not your head. It's not in here. Connection comes from your heart, from your core, from that chakra. It is the way you connect into everything. Okay. Now, before I close, I want to share a funny little story about pull and push. All right. So I've spent the last few months focused on pulling energy into my heart using something called heart math. I've been connecting to the energy all around me, to source, and I've consciously worked with that energy in my heart around my health and my life, my business, my dreams, a lot about my health, connecting deep, more and more deeply. I've as part of that, I've mostly transformed my push habit, right? I've gotten more now that I'm in my heart, I'm in my pull and I'm in my flow. Now, how do I know it's mostly? Because I said it was mostly. Well, here's the funny story. You guys may have noticed over the last year that I have an eye twitch in my left eye, right? Doctors have told me for over a decade that it's nerve damage from my neural Lyme disease. It comes and goes, but it started to come back way more after I joined RAINN. And yes, I missed that hint. So as I moved back into my heart the last few months and began to pull energy, my eyes stopped twitching completely. Look at it. When I meditate, focus on my heart and joy, when I'm living in my connected flow, the twitch is gone. The twitch is gone. The nanosecond I lose that connection and step back into push, it starts fluttering like a hummingbird wing. So I now have my own personal push detector. I never expected that. And you know what? I can run, but I can't hide because Randy knows that now. And so you know what's going on with me just by looking at that eye. So now I'm going to wrap this up. Okay. We can easily feel the difference between push and pull. We can also learn how to use pull to our advantage in so many ways, in personal conversations and RAINN conversations. And learning to pull energy is also good for you because it'll give you more and more connection into the energy around us and into your heart. So this week, practice the 3 simple first steps I just shared, right? And then notice the difference in yourself and notice the difference in the folks you're speaking with. Okay. And it's not hard. You know, it was the 3 little steps, right? It was simple 3 steps. I'm going to give them to you again so everybody's got them, right? It's ask questions, right? It's ask questions versus making statements, right? It's active listening instead of planning your responses, actively listening to people, and it's speaking from your heart instead of your head, all right? After you do that and pay attention this week, then I have a really simple question for all of you to think about. What if in a world filled with push, 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 Pull is your secret weapon. Be unstoppable out there. Hi, it's Rebel again, and I'm here to give you a little extra added info. You see, one of the beauties of rain is that you never have to push. Why? Well, most people push when they get to talking about something that they're not as comfortable with or not as confident about, or when they're rattling an awful lot of information that they've learned or whatever. With rain, you don't have to do that. We have the tools that do all the work for you. You simply focus on reaching out to great people you'd love to work with, and you share the info about Rain. Our tools do the rest. Our tools cover everything from training you with our new associate orientation to on how to get started, to our Rainmaker University that is ongoing monthly training from Randy Gage and Ann Feinstein, who are two of the renowned leaders in the multi-level marketing world. They get you going so you understand what to do. Then there are tools that help you to explain it to others. Everything from our Vitality magazine, which is all about seed source nutrition and our products, to our series of How to Make It Rain that explains the business aspect and how to grow a business and what the business is and how you can make money, to our ongoing leadership training to like this week, to our breakthrough sessions on Saturday. We do everything we can to train you and give you the tools so that all you do is focus on creating trusted relationships with people that you want involved, whether as customers or associates. So now I want to thank everyone that came tonight. We are family and we love our trainings. For our visitors, if you have questions, or more likely if you're ready to join us, please reach out to the person who invited you and ask them your questions and get more information about how to get started and learn about your future with Rain. Happy rainmaking to all of our family.